All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready to go deep on something different this time.
I think they're going to love this one.
Fast food flops. We all know the classics, the Big Macs, the Whoppers.
Right, the legends.
But what about the menu items that crashed and burned? The ones that just didn't make it?
The ones that left us scratching our heads.
Exactly. We've got a fun listicle article here, all about the biggest fast food fails. We're talking spaghetti at McDonald's, burgers that might turn you green, and pizza that was, well, anything BUT pizza.
It's so easy to get caught up in the success stories, but I think there are some really interesting things we can learn from these culinary misfires.
Definitely. Like, what were they thinking? And what does it tell us about changing tastes, brand identity, maybe even our relationship with fast food itself?
All great questions.
So let's start with a brand that's no stranger to experimentation. McDonald's. I mean, they've had some huge GE hits, but also some pretty spectacular misses.
Yeah, some real head scratchers.
Like, remember when they tried to launch pizza?
Oh yeah, the McDonald's pizza, early 90s.
It was a bold move, I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too bold.
You have to admire the ambition, but I mean, can you imagine trying to bake a pizza quickly enough for a drive-through order?
And the logistics of those pizza boxes in a drive-through lane.
Right, it just doesn't compute.
It's just not their thing.
Yeah.
But pizza wasn't their only misstep. What about the McDLT? That burger with a split personality,
Yeah.
keeping the hot side hot and the cold side cold.
The McDLT, classic example of good idea on paper, maybe not so much in practice.
Yeah, keeping the ingredients separate sounds appealing,
In theory, sure.
but the execution was just, I don't know, bulky.
Not very environmentally friendly with all that packaging either.
And probably a total nightmare for the workers to assemble.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It really makes you wonder, if the McDLT came out today, in our more eco-conscious world, would it even stand a chance?
I doubt it. Consumers are just so much more aware of packaging and sustainability now.
Absolutely. That focus on sustainability is everywhere in the food industry now, not just fast food.
For sure.
But going back to McDonald's, they really did swing for the fences with some of their ideas. Did you know they even tried to sell spaghetti? Spaghetti. Okay, now that one I have to hear more about.
Back in the 70s, they introduced McDonald's spaghetti. It was basically what you'd expect. Long noodles, marinara sauce, shredded cheese, all served up in a cardboard container.
It sounds so out of place for them. It's like, what even IS McDonald's if they're serving spaghetti?
Right. It just clashes with everything their brand stands for.
Totally. It makes you wonder if anyone in those development meetings ever raised a hand and said, are we sure about this?
Huh. That's a question for the ages. But these missteps are fascinating, aren't they?
They really are.
They tell us so much about what works, what doesn't, and how consumer expectations can make or break a product.
Absolutely. It's not just about the food itself, it's about the whole experience and whether it aligns with the brand's image.
It's all connected.
So have you ever tried any of these McDonald's misfires? Or are you lucky enough to have missed out?
I have to admit I've never actually encountered a McDLT or McDonald's spaghetti in the wild.
Really?
I've heard the legends, though, especially about that styrofoam container. It's practically a museum piece now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I think we should move beyond the golden arches and talk about another trend that tripped up a lot of fast food chains.
Yeah.
The pursuit of, healthy options.
Oh, yeah. The healthy fast food dilemma. It's almost like trying to square a circle, isn't it?
It kind of is. I mean, it's fast food. We're not exactly going there for a kale salad.
Exactly.
Right
There's a
about.
certain expectation of, indulgence
Right.
baked into the whole concept of fast food. It's a treat, a break from the everyday.
It's like a little reward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when brands try to market themselves as healthy, it can create a real disconnect for consumers.
For sure. Well, Burger King Satisfries. They were supposed to be lower in fat and calories,
Right.
but they were just kind of, I don't know, sad.
The name itself, Satisfy, it's almost apologetic.
It is.
Like they knew they weren't delivering the full fry experience.
Yeah. Consumers saw right through it.
Absolutely.
And then there was Dairy Queen's attempt to lighten up their iconic Blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Breeze? Frozen yogurt, supposed to be a healthier alternative.
But it kept going bad before it could even be sold.
That's right. Like, logistical nightmare.
Good intentions, but yeah.
So is healthy fast food just, like, inherently a contradiction? Can you really have your burger Andy, your health halo?
It's a tough one. There's definitely a growing demand for healthier options, but striking that balance between health and indulgence while still maintaining the affordability and convenience of fast food, That's a challenge.
The tough needle to thread.
Yeah, maybe instead of trying to reinvent the classics, the answer is in like offering more balanced choices
Yeah.
alongside the indulgences.
I think that's a good point. It's a fascinating dilemma for sure. It really does make you wonder, what will the next evolution of fast food look like? Will we ever crack the code of healthy fast food?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Makes you think. But for now, let's shift gears a little bit from the healthy aspirations to a brand that's like synonymous with indulgence. Pizza Hut. You'd think a pizza chain would have it easy,
Reading?
but even they've had their share of flops. Like, what about that Flavor of Now campaign?
Oh, the Flavor of Now campaign.
It just felt like they were trying a little too hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to chase after that millennial foodie crowd
Right.
with things like honey sriracha sauce and Peruvian cherry peppers.
Yeah, it was all very, on trend.
But I think in doing so, they kind of alienated their core customer base,
Mhm.
The people who loved Pizza Hut for its, like, classic flavors.
Right, the comfort food aspect. So
Exactly.
it's like they forgot what made them successful in the first place.
Sometimes sticking to the tried and true is more effective than chasing the latest trends.
100%. And while we're on the subject of pizza-adjacent fails, who can forget Domino's Oreo dessert pizza?
Oh,
A pizza-sized cookie.
Mhm.
It sounds, intriguing in theory,
on paper, sure.
but the execution, not so much.
Sometimes two good things just don't belong together. And I think in this case, the combination of pizza and Oreos just resulted in this, like, overly sweet, chewy, just plain, strange dessert.
It's like they tried to force this hybrid that was never meant to be.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what were they thinking in those test kitchens? But speaking of head-scratching moments, I think it's time to delve into the what were they thinking category.
yes.
The flops that make you question reality itself. Like, did this really happen?
I have some real gems for this category, starting with Long John Silver's Big Catch.
Oh, yeah, the big catch. I remember
There
that.
was like a massive piece of fried fish piled high with onion rings and served with a side of hush puppies.
It was just a heart attack on a plate.
It really was.
I can appreciate a good over-the-top food challenge, but there's a limit.
There is a line.
And they withdrew it pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, it faced a lot of backlash and, probably for the best.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then there was the infamous Halloween Whopper from Burger King.
Oh, yes, the black bun.
You remember that one, right?
Of course.
The green poop burger. I couldn't escape it. It was all over social media.
It definitely generated buzz,
It did,
but not necessarily the kind Burger King was hoping for. The black bun, which was, dyed with food coloring, had a rather unfortunate side effect for some people.
yeah, let's just say it left some folks with a less than appetizing souvenir.
It goes to show that, shock value can backfire.
Especially when it comes to something people are putting in their bodies.
Exactly.
Speaking of bizarre, remember the Wendy's Super Bar?
The Super
I
Bar.
have to admit, that one's before my time.
So the Super Bar was this buffet-style offering they had back in the 80s and 90s. And this wasn't just your typical burger and fries situation. They had tacos, pasta, salad, even garlic bread made from hamburger buns.
Oh, what? That sounds chaotic. Who goes to Wendy's for, like, a taco buffet?
Exactly. It was a classic case of, a brand trying to be everything to everyone and just losing its focus.
Right.
They strayed too far from their core identity, and it ultimately backfired.
If you were tasked with designing a Wendy's buffet, what would you include? Hypothetically, of course.
Well, I think I'd stick to their strengths. A build-your-own burger station with a variety of toppings, different types of fries, maybe some chili, some baked potatoes.
Right.
And, of course, a frosty machine where you could add your own mix-ins.
Okay, now that actually sounds pretty good. I would hit up that buffet. But let's not forget about some of the other notable flops out there. McDonald's had a few more misses, like the McHot dog. I mean, a hot dog at McDonald's
Yeah.
just seems wrong.
It just didn't align with their brand,
It didn't at all.
And then there were the Mighty Wings, essentially bone-in McNuggets, but they were overpriced and way too spicy for most people's palates.
And they had the McAfrica, a burger released in Norway during a time when there was like a major famine happening in Africa.
Yeah.
Talk about a PR nightmare.
Oh yeah, timing is everything, and in that case, their timing was incredibly tone-deaf.
No kidding. All right, last but not least, we have to mention Taco Bell's attempt at a seafood salad. Seafood at Taco Bell. Who greenlit that idea?
I mean, it's like they were trying to compete with the McDonald's Filet-O-Fish, but it just didn't make any sense for their brand.
Seafood and Taco Bell are two flavors that should never meet.
Agreed.
It's funny, we've been talking about all these flops, but it actually makes me appreciate the menu items that did survive. The ones that, stood the test of time.
It's survival of the fittest, even in the fast food world.
That's a good point.
The menu items we see today are the result of, countless trials and errors, a testament to the brands that, really know their audience and aren't afraid to adapt.
Yeah, it's like looking through a culinary time capsule, all those hits and misses. But it really does make you think, what went wrong with some of these? Like the Wendy's Super Bar, it's almost legendary in its weirdness.
Right. You had tacos and pasta right next to burgers and fries, garlic bread made from hamburger buns. It's wild.
I mean, it must have been a logistical nightmare to run, too, all those different ingredients and stations.
Oh, absolutely. And think about the food waste. They probably had to throw out so much stuff every day.
Good point. But beyond the logistics, what do you think was really at the heart of its failure?
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, brand identity. Wendy's had such a clear image, focused on those square burgers, the frosty, the sassy social media presence.
Right, they had a lane.
Exactly. But the Super Bar, it's like they were trying to be everything to everyone, and they ended up diluting their brand. Customers are probably confused, like, what IS Wendy's anymore?
Makes sense. You go there expecting a certain experience, and suddenly you're faced with, like, a salad bar next to a nacho station.
Yeah, it's too much. Too many choices, too far from what people expected from Wendy's. Speaking of choices, we can't forget about Arby's venison sandwich.
Oh, yeah, the venison sandwich. Arby's really went there.
It's pretty bold, right? I think
Yeah.
they still offer it seasonally in certain locations.
Do they? I had no idea. But venison, it's not exactly the easiest meat to work with. It can be kind of dry if it's not cooked right.
Yeah, and maybe not the best fit for, like, a quick service sandwich. You need time to get venison tender.
Makes you wonder if some of these flops were just ahead of their time. Like, what if the venison sandwich came out today with all the emphasis on local sourcing and, like, farm to table? Maybe it would be a hit.
Could be. Tastes change. What might have been considered too niche a few years ago could be mainstream now. It's all about timing, understanding the cultural context.
Oh, so true. All right, we've explored a graveyard of fast food failures, from the understandable to the downright bizarre. What are the key takeaways here? What can we learn from all these culinary misfires?
I think the biggest lesson, and it's one we keep coming back to, is the importance of understanding your brand, knowing your audience, and being in tune with what they want.
It's not just about chasing every trend that comes along.
No, and sometimes the simplest ideas are the best. A good burger, crispy fries, a drink. Those are classics for a reason.
Couldn't agree more. So next time you're at your favorite fast food joint, take a moment to appreciate the menu items that made it, the ones that survived the test of time, the taste tests, and the marketing meetings.
And maybe even spare a thought for the ones that didn't make the cut. The culinary experiments, the flops that paved the way for the hits.
Because even in failure, there's a lesson to be learned, right?
Yeah.
And hey, maybe some of these flops will make a comeback someday. Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Exactly. The world of fast food is always full of surprises.
Well, until next time, happy eating, everyone.